welcome to our session. I appreciate you taking the time right before lunch to come hang out with the two of us on such an important topic. You know, there's always a cost to compliance and security, and everyone looks at it like a cost center. Why does security cost us so much? Why do we have to, include the cost for security? Why can't we just launch our products? We've already got a budget. You're not fitting into the budget. So what we want to do today is talk through how can you monetize your security and compliance. So I'm Kristine Harper. I am a senior practice manager at AWS Security Assurance Services, LLC. I'll add that on the end. And I've got Rob with me here.
And I'm Rob Faba, or Faba, or Faba, or Fabu, however you want to pronounce it, perfectly okay with me. I'm also at AWS Security Assurance Services. I'm a security assurance consultant. Got a lot of alphabet soup after my name, but I'm also a QSA, formerly a P2P assessor, QPA, 3DS assessor. And I'm excited to present right now. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about the evolution of payment security. We want to go beyond just a checkbox compliance to an actual competitive advantage. How do you monetize, checking that box, right? It's not just about checking the box from cost center to the value generator. Then I'll turn it over to Kristine, who will walk us through some real world success stories. And if everybody wants to see something really funny, we'll ask her to say that 3 times fast. And then we'll move into the actual part about building your trust currency strategy. All right, so the evolution of payment security, where we came from, where we are, where we're trying to get to. So let's start off in the 90s and the 2000s. I like my quote here. I just want to pass my assessment. What's the bare minimum I need to do to pass my assessment? What do I need, a 7-character password? I'm good to go? All right. All right, so obviously that's where everybody was, and I won't ask for a show of hands, even though I know some of you out here might have been guilty in the past of this mentality. We're moving into the 2010s and the 2020s. This is where I like to think security and compliance got married, right? So now we're not just thinking about checking a box. We're thinking about, how do we keep this thing successful? So breaches are super expensive, kind of like divorces, right? I should know, I've had 2 divorces, not breaches. All right. So yeah, just speaking from that perspective, I do have one statistic I wanted to share. $4.8 million, that's the average cost of a breach in 2024. Source is IBM. That's expensive. I don't have $4.8 million, probably on the account of 2 ex-wives. Anyway, moving into the 2020s and beyond, what are we trying to do? We're trying to get our customers to trust us and use us because they trust us, right? Like 80%, I got a stat on that too, but I have to read it because I'm not good at memorization. But according to a Deloitte study in 2014, 80% of consumers identified they were more likely to make purchases from an organization that they consider to be secure. And we do that partially through, marketing our compliance. Customers use us because they trust us, because we are compliant, we must be secure. And that's where we're trying to go. And I hope that's where everyone in this room is trying to go. So talking about enhancing customer trust and loyalty. Customers actively consider a company's security reputation before sharing payment information. That's what I talked about with that last statistic, right? This leads to, increased engagement. Customers, if they feel secure, they're more likely to stick with us, be retained. They're going to come back. They're going to keep ordering stuff on Amazon.com. Shameless plug. That's that brand loyalty, to attract and retain that security conscious customer. That's what we're aiming for, which of course, falls back to business sales cycles, right? We want those to come faster. So let's talk about, how business growth highlights how security certifications open new market opportunities and partnerships. We're talking about that B2B advantage. So compliance is a requirement for many of our enterprise customers. It opens up new doors to new markets. Payment processor relationships. Compliant businesses help us gain access to better payment gateway operations and rates, right? Market differentiation. This is an important one. Maybe you have a partner that is not required to be PCI compliant, for example. Like, think maybe like a log management solution. Maybe they don't need to have a PCI compliant AOC, but if you can utilize that service provider and they have a compliant AOC, that reduces the cost of your assessment, right? Me as an assessor, I can read that responsibility matrix, read that AOC. I can say, okay, you're compliant at least with this portion of the controls. Now let's look at your side of the responsibility model. Yeah, so I've kind of just talked high level about what we're trying to accomplish here, but we have some case studies that Kristine's going to talk you through. These are some real world success stories, and I'll hand it over to Kristine to walk you through those.
And if you want me to say that phrase afterwards, I'll try to say it for you.
Get her to do it now.
But I'll refrain from embarrassing myself and just say case studies. So the first one we want to do is talk about a digital travel industry leader, somebody who continuously processes accommodations across the globe. One of the things that they wanted to do was increase their ability to scale transactions, scale what they do worldwide, and transform and modernize their environment. So as AWS, of course, we work in the cloud, and they needed to maintain that PCI compliance. And we get a lot of hesitation with customers. How do I move my PCI compliant workloads to the cloud and maintain that? We know nothing about it. We get a lot of no's from security that says, no, we can't do that. So in this case, they wanted to know, how could we do this? How can we make sure it's secure and compliant from the start? We don't want to come in and transform our environment and then still have the same security and compliance issues we have today. So what we helped them do was create a literal foundational security infrastructure. And when we talk about savings and being able to have like an indirect revenue or return on investment, ROI, what is it that they're spending money on constantly over and over again that is requiring that security be a cost to the company? Why can't security be a one-time investment in some cases, and then you just wash, rinse, repeat? So what we did was we created a foundation that had a set number of controls. So every time they deployed a storage service, that storage service would always deploy encrypted. So they had to build that out initially. It cost them up front. But going forward, that would always deploy that way. It was automated. It was enforced. And then even afterwards, we were able to put in the automated detective controls with automated response. And so then you get to this automation phase where now you're not spending that security funding every time you migrate another workload to the cloud. You've got these PCI controls in place as long as they use that infrastructure to then deploy their workloads into. And so they're also able to create what, if anyone knows anything about the cloud, shared responsibility model. We say it all the time, like, what am I responsible for in the cloud, and what is the cloud provider responsible for? You can make that internally. How do you make shared responsibility an internal model? So now you've got a baseline infrastructure architecture. It's compliant. These controls are managed for your teams that are consuming it. The infrastructure team will say your storage is always going to be encrypted and you can't change it. Now you've created an internal responsibility, and the workload teams are no longer even responsible for those controls. They don't have to spend the operational time putting that stuff in place or recreating it every workload that migrates to the cloud. What this resulted in for them was 60% reduction in operational costs because they initially put in all the controls up front. They have enabled innovation and scale, move fast, because they can wash, rinse, repeat those controls, deploy a new environment, it's got the controls, put your application in there. They achieved 99% uptime, and downtime is very costly. So that's huge. That's what one of their transformation goals was to maintain that uptime that they're not managing. 100 million plus daily API requests was what they went up to. It actually exceeded their goal. The modernized security, like we said, shift left security, no more click ops, like get them out of production. Enhance customer trust. That's the one thing I think if you learn anything in here is the customer trust factor. How do you get the customers to trust that you are secure? How do you get them to invest in you, to use you? That's how you're going to make revenue, is can you build that security in, but can you also get them to trust that you have that security in place? And then being able to scale globally. Now they can, the daily API request goes up because they can do more across the globe as they transformed into the cloud. So just another quick case study here. This is a 3DS authentication provider, so very different perspective. They wanted to move into the US markets. They had no US market. It was only in one country overseas. And they really wanted to address their authentication during peak holiday times. So we helped them with a lot of automation for implementing their security processes, doing automation for their runbooks and playbooks, and built-in native capabilities within the cloud to address their security. One thing that they were trying to do was kind of revolutionize the authentication. Like you get a one-time password, hey, confirm this is you, but they wanted to change that model up. And so what they did was they marketed it that way as well. They had, in the last year, and we helped them about 2 years ago, just last year, they had 7 billion new transactions in the US market. And they weren't even in the US market to begin with. They are heavily marketing their PCI and their 3DS compliance. They're heavily marketing the security that they put in place, marketing the way that they do authentication now as not being such a burden to the customer. Oh, did you get that text message for the one-time password? It's very different. So they're trying to change how some of those models work and improve the authentication. It also reduced fraud. So for their customers, on average, within the first month, it reduced their fraud by 67%. That is a huge cost. When there's a lot of fraud involved, that's a huge cost. So not just PCI and 3DS, but security in general, you're talking about helping customers, save money. So that's the return. It's not about, did we make money off of security? You are making money indirectly. You're making revenue. You're enabling the business and showing the business how. So, moving on to how do you build this strategy? How do you put a strategy together to get here? How can you show your executive board advisors that you've got, you can show that you've got this revenue in place so that you can show that you impacted the revenue? So, quantifiable metrics. I think that's one of the hardest things in security is to quantify your impact on monetization, whether it's revenue or return on investment. Customer Trust Index, where are those CSAT scores? Where are the, I guess you could say, what are they, surveys. There we go, surveys. I'm trying to get him to tell me the word. Where's the surveys that you're sending out? Just to at least get an understanding of, do they feel like you're secure? Are you doing enough? Are they seeing problems? Do they not have enough reduction in maybe even their fraud cases? Do their customers, their own customers, appreciate what they're doing for them using your products? Transactional volume growth, that one that I just mentioned, 7 billion transactions in the last year in a brand new US market. And that was enabled because they can wash, rinse, repeat security and move very fast. Are you able to show that you helped enable that? Operational cost reduction, we talked about that. Lower fraud losses, talked about that. Partner integration. If you are providing a product, I'm AWS. AWS as a CSP, cloud service provider, doesn't have card transactions. We don't have to be PCI compliant. We could just be assessed with every customer that uses the cloud. Holy cow, can you imagine how many assessments we would have to do a year for every customer that uses the cloud because they put their data up there. It's not our data. So instead, we spend the money to be assessed actually twice a year for PCI, not once, every 6 months. So we reissue our AOCs twice a year, and we pay for that because at the end of the day, that saves us a ton of money, and it saves our customers a ton of money having to pay their auditors to do our audits with every one of their own. The time in that alone is a huge cost savings for the amount of money that is paid to the employees of both companies. Security infrastructure, compliance automation, and the trust programs. You've got to invest in those. So there's where the return on investment. Can you demonstrate to your company that you are something that they should invest in, that that you're a benefit to them? So now how do you actually build this? Assess and align. You've got to know where you're at before you can know where you're going. What is your actual security posture? Not what your auditor comes in sees, what you've told them, like what is your actual security posture? And that's one thing that I love about our team is we work really closely with our customers to understand where they actually sit, not just about checking compliance, their whole security posture. Map it to the business goals. I think this is where a lot of things fall short. Security needs to enable the business. So where the business says we're going, what can security do for them? Compliance, what can compliance do for them? You got an entire marketing team that's going to market a launch of a new product that is going to do something related to payments. Do you have security marketed with them to say, hey, are you marketing that we have this highly secure product that's PCI compliant, that might be these other alphabet soup compliant controls, and we've had it evaluated? Why aren't those being marketed with it? So that you can earn that customer trust. Invest and implement, prioritize high impact controls, and not just controls. We have a lot of customers who say, hey, I've got my critical workload here. It runs our, the bread and butter of our business, and it's PCI. We can't touch that because if it breaks, we're in trouble. Why wouldn't you take that and scale that quickly? Why wouldn't you take that as the, hey, let's start here, take our critical workload, that's the highest impact revenue to our company, let's make it faster, let's make it secure, wash, rinse, repeatable, and they can continue to innovate while security is just now built in for them. They're inheriting those controls. Why wouldn't we want to do that? You're going to make more money that way. Deploy automated security solutions. We've talked about that several times. Track trust metrics and calculate your security ROI. This is where I see a lot of inability to demonstrate your value as security and compliance. Figure out what those metrics are. Where can you show, hey, we saved the company this much by doing this, because now we don't have to do it 10 times for 10 workloads. We did it one time for the first workload, and we repeated it 10 times. And it's all automated. Communicate and grow. Showcase your security achievements. And here I want to touch on culture of security. In companies today, you often see silos. Security is a team, infrastructure is a team, these other folks are another team, and they don't really cross-mingle talk. They do their own thing, stay in their lane. You have to demonstrate to the operational teams that they're doing a great job. You have to demonstrate to the security teams, you all are doing a great job, but you also have to showcase those achievements publicly. So when you have a small wins, like have a win wire, send a win wire out, hey, we just launched our first product, PCI compliant and alphabet soup compliant in the cloud, and now we have had an increase on however millions of transactions a year because we have enabled the business to move faster and security was built in. The next 10 workloads that are now achieving the same thing, and you don't have to put in all that underlying infrastructure again, how much more did that save? Throw those out there. Make sure the business knows, not just the people on top, but the people that are doing the work. And then leverage trust for expansion. This is where you say, okay, we did this first workload, we've made this, you can now inherit this, you can use the same thing, and this is how it was done. So now you've got this other application team that's leery about doing it because they have to, uproot themselves and move to the cloud. How can you actually show them, hey, we've already done it once, and you get to inherit everything that we did because we don't have to rebuild it. So keep those in mind. I'm going to hand it back over to Rob for transforming security, not just having the strategy.
Yeah, so I know everybody's eager to go to lunch, so I'm going to spend about 23 minutes on this slide. I'm talk about transforming security and cost to currency, right? This is more of a recap slide. I got people sneaking out already. All right, so assess, identify, and build, right? What do we mean with assess? Where are we now? How do I figure it out, right? Build, or identify, what are my money makers? That's what we care about. What am I doing today? How do my customers perceive security? And how do they perceive security and compliance of these products? All right, how do I build security in so I'm not delayed by the security as an afterthought moniker, right? How often does that happen? And then build your trust strategy. Don't try to eat the whole elephant in one bite though, right? We talked about identifying your moneymakers. Start with small wins using your highest priority revenue generators. Identify high points. An example might be just, reducing the cost of an assessment because controls were built into your CI/CD pipeline, for example. And that could save you some money. That's how we get to the end of the presentation. All right. Well, thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoy lunch.
Yeah. It's always nice to go right before lunch. Thank you very much.